Hey, welcome to the CMO Whisper Show. I'm your host, Steve Olensky. Part marketing practitioner, part ad agency veteran, part journalist. I was a writer for Forbes for 10 years. I've had so many insightful conversations over the years with business leaders, to athletes, to celebrities, to, of course, CMOs. The only difference now is instead of sharing those insights through written form, I'm doing it this way. My guest this week is Elizabeth Maxson, or Emax, as her colleagues fondly call her. She's an accomplished marketing professional with over 18 years of experience spanning various industries, including nonprofit, automotive, and high tech. Currently serving as the SVP and Chief Marketing Officer for Tableau, a Salesforce company, Elizabeth leads the global go-to-market strategy driving end-to-end marketing initiatives. Now, throughout her tenure at Salesforce, she's held diverse positions, showcasing her versatility and expertise. Everything from strategic events to corporate messaging, Elizabeth has consistently made a significant impact. She has successfully led marketing and operations for strategic partnerships, launching critical relationships with industry giants such as AWS, Google, Alibaba, Apple, and many others. In addition to her role at Tableau, Elizabeth has also served as the head of marketing for Quip, another Salesforce acquisition. Her dedication to making a difference extends beyond her professional accomplishments. During the COVID pandemic, she drove distribution of over 50 million units of personal protective equipment to healthcare workers worldwide in partnership with UCSF Children's Benioff Hospital. This project stands, and rightly so, as one of her most impactful and proudest career highlights. Emax, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It is totally my pleasure. I think we're going to have a really open, free conversation. When we spoke about a couple weeks ago for our first time, it was very free flowing, right? Very comfortable. So I expect the same here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's jump in. This is interesting to me, the first thing that we're going to talk about. And because I've talked to CMOs well over 20 years in every type of industry, you name it. The path to becoming a CMO. Yes, it's changed. Yes, it's going to be different for literally every CMO. But I'm really curious to hear your thoughts about, there is no one size fits all, right? Correct? So let's dive into your thoughts on the path to becoming a CMO.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that there is not one path, but how you get there really figures out how you want to operate in the role. And for me, it's honestly a question that just came up twice last week where someone had said to me, well, you weren't a product marketer for year after year. Like, how did you become a CMO? And they just assume that you have to be a hardcore product marketer in order to get to this position. And for me, I've just always had a wide range of experience. And I think a lot of that really stems from my roots and where I grew up. Something that you and I bonded over in your background are all these amazing albums, from Motown. I'm a Metro Detroit girl, and I grew up with very blue collar, roots. And my parents were teachers, really valued education. And a big part of my upbringing was really about having that hard work and going after the next opportunity. And that was really my path with every job I've had. So out of Michigan, I worked in a nonprofit focusing on the golf industry, developed a passion for golf along my way, got really ingrained in the golf industry, did an internship with the USGA, worked at Atlanta Junior Golf Association in Georgia, just kind of bouncing around the country and whatever the opportunity was. Shortly found out, it was kind of hard being female in the industry at that time, and also probably not going to make enough money for what my goals and wanting to accomplish. And it started to then get into tech. And I got into a startup in Atlanta. I was employee number one. So real legit startup. That was a staffing agency that opened up my world to corporate events. And one of our first clients was Charles Schwab. And from there, I was traveling the country, putting on corporate events for all different types of clients, from Schwab, Cisco, Adobe, to automotive clients, and was really learning, okay, how do I then get into corporate and really thinking about a bigger strategy than operations and logistics of events. That led me to an experience marketing agency called George P. Johnson, where I spent some time. That opened up my opportunity with Salesforce. Salesforce is one of their major clients, and I've been working with Salesforce technically since 2009 and internally for just over 10 years. And in my 10 years, again, similar mindset of always just going after what's the next opportunity, but more, where's my next step where I can really be learning more. So I started off in strategic events, I moved into our corporate messaging and content team where I supported, mergers and acquisitions and overall scaling our platform and how we're going to talk about it, at a global scale all over the world. And a lot of my changes in career also came with having multiple babies. So every time I've had a mat leave, I've come back to a different job, which has been very exciting to me. But that led me into strategic partnerships where I built a new marketing team from the ground up and launched all these incredible partnerships that you rattled off earlier. And again, another opportunity after another mat leave was to be head of marketing for Quip. And that was really my first exposure to running all end-to-end marketing across the board. So my first, I would say, kind of step towards that CMO role. And then with Tableau, I joined, it'll be almost 3 years coming up in January, and came in first supporting our sales organization, which in hindsight actually has really benefited me the most. One of my closest stakeholders is with sales, which I think is one of the hardest relationships with marketers. And it's, the CRO and I definitely are the best partners. And so I'm grateful for that time in sales strategy and helped working on really strategic initiatives for sales. But what ended up happening is I naturally was filling in gaps in marketing, and over time built a little bit of a shadow organization and started working my way towards now becoming CMO today, which I've been in seat now about 11 months.
So 2 follow-ups. Very different follow-ups. One, advice to marketing managers and marketing directors out there listening to this who want to eventually become a CMO. What do you say to them?
I think the biggest thing for me is having a wide breadth of experience. I feel like I'm a CMO who is a jack of all trades, and I am not one expert in one area. If anything, I build a team where I build a team of experts. I want to hire people that are smarter than me, that can really dive deeper into different functions of marketing. But if you really want to be able to understand the business, trying to expand your knowledge and move around and gain different types of experience, I think has really served me as a CMO.
Did you have the benefit of any mentors coming up?
I mean, I've been very lucky that Salesforce has it's a CMO machine. So there's a lot of successful CMOs that have come out of Salesforce that have been mentors along the way. And I've been very lucky that also a lot of them are female. And, having that female mentorship was really important to me. I also really believe in having an executive coach. I have the same coach I've had for probably about 5 years now that I commit to meeting with every single week for 30 minutes. And that's a commitment. And I think a lot of people do not invest in themselves with mentorship and coaching that I have really found valuable in my career.
Without question. The second part of my question now, let's talk to existing CMOs, because you mentioned something about your relationship with sales and the CRO, right? Relationships are everything, as we know in life, of course, but especially in the CMO role, right? Talk a little bit about why the relationships with the rest of the C-suite, and in particular, the sales and CRO are so important, why that alignment is so important for everybody's success.
Yeah, for me, it's the trifecta. It's sales, marketing, and product together. With sales specifically, I sit on the sales floor. Like, I'm interacting with AEs every day. They are your front line to your customers. I mean, obviously, I'm in my own customer meetings talking to executives about our products. But when it comes to the day-to-day of talking to customers, what better way to get feedback and whether or not your messaging is landing than going through sales? And I don't think marketers use sales enough as a really great sounding board for what's working, what's not working, and what's missing. Like, what are those gaps? And you need to have that leadership alignment. And I always feel like, I'm sure a lot of CMOs feel the blame game. When something's not working, it's very easy to blame marketing. But I feel our leadership team is so united. And again, going back to product as well, our chief product officer, I really feel like we're such united as one team. We have each other's back. We're in it together. And if I didn't have those relationships, I don't think we could ever move the business forward together.
Yeah, it's very chicken and egg, right? With sales and marketing, especially, as you know. But now with CRO and CIOs and CTOs, it to me, it just cannot be overstated, the importance of that full alignment and none of those silos.
Well, and I think, where do you take advantage of the opportunity to showcase that closeness and alignment as well? For example, I sit in our CRO's leadership meeting every single week. I participate in their all hands calls. I'm constantly transparent about where we're going with our marketing. because every single one of those interactions is also a form of enablement. And I think that's really critical as, again, as we're changing messaging or releasing new product, and we really have to teach our field what's coming at them and how they can stay ahead. That relationship with the CRO just becomes more and more important. And again, the CRO having a big stake in what I'm doing, the pipeline that we're driving, what we are converting, making sure that we're tightly aligned and understand those metrics together. And I definitely feel that support from our CRO as well.
Okay, let's move to the elephant in everybody's room. And that's AI.
Yes.
It really is, right? And in fact, I think it's even 2 or 3 elephants at this point when it comes to marketers and AI. And what I've noticed over the past, since the beginning of the year, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, is the initial January, February, March was, the Chat GPT, and it was the shiny new toy. And now a lot of things have come out, and Gemini and Copilot and things like that. People, marketers, CMOs were reluctant. I always use the pool analogy. Some went into the deep end, some went into the kids pool, some are still sitting on the sideline when it comes to AI. Fast forward, at least that sense I get is more are at least getting their toes wet when it comes to AI. But I'd love to get your thoughts. What's the most important thing for marketers to know just at a high level when it comes to AI? And then we can get more granular, because I know, as we talked offline, you have the benefit of using, your own tools at Tableau for AI. But let's start at high level. What do you think marketers need to know? What do you think are some concerns? Are there some myths that we need to bust for marketers when it comes to AI?
Well, I think, the first one is that AI is not new, right? AI has been around forever. It's this generative AI that is really changing the market, and tools like ChatGPT that you use in your personal day-to-day life. The more that you use these types of things personally, you then come to expect them in your work life. And I think maybe something to debunk is there's some fear base about it. I don't know if it's fear of, oh my gosh, if I use this tool and it's faster and better, comes up with better ideas than I did in the moment, is there fear that that's going to replace me someday? And I don't think that is a thing at all. I think it's really about how AI is working with humans together and making sure that this is not AI replacing anyone in any way. So for marketers, I think they have all the opportunity in the world. I mean, content is king as a marketer. That's all we're doing is amazing content creation. Amazing to think that AI can help you move faster and really create more content and amazing content. And it's okay if maybe ChatGPT comes up with a better idea than you do, because that's just going to propel you to go faster. So that's how I think about it. I don't think my team is fearful of it, which is great. We actually embrace it, and we're trying out different tools. Like Writer, for example, is a place that we're dancing right now, and we're training that model with our tone of voice. Tableau is a slightly different tone of voice than Salesforce. So we're training our own models and helping produce content. But I'm also very lucky that Tableau has leaned in very aggressively into the AI space. So we have a product called Tableau Pulse, where I receive marketing insights in the palm of my hand and a mobile app every single day. And I'm deeply ingrained in how my pipeline is performing, my website metrics, my social metrics, every aspect of marketing. But the best part about it is I also see every metric of sales. And going back to that relationship with my CRO, we're looking at the exact same data sets, and we know that we are completely aligned. And so I still have an analyst team. Those analysts still do really great work, but it's these insights that are being generated for me that I've never had ever given to me in the palm of my hand before. That has been really helpful.
So you mentioned earlier, you talk to customers all the time about your products, but share a little bit there. What do they say when it comes to AI?
Yeah, we actually we surveyed over 10,000 IT leaders last year in our State of Data Analytics report, and found that 91% feel that their organizations 100% can benefit from generative AI. Bain actually came out with a report most recently about companies that are already implementing it. And it's huge investments, right? It's 87% of companies are either deploying, they're trying something out, or they're building it themselves, which is also mind-blowing how many companies are just trying to do it on their own because there's maybe not enough out there that they're trying to figure out. And it's really this rat race right now. But the investments are really huge. On the low end, companies are spending $5 million a year on AI, up to $50 million in the enterprise. So it's happening. It's no more this paradigm shift of, oh my gosh, AI is coming. It's generative AI is here and people are leveraging and using it. But I think the big linchpin is you can't be successful with AI without a proper data strategy. And that's where we've been very passionate in that everything comes back to data. Like you have to have your data house in order. And to me, it's an infinitive loop. Your AI is only as good as your data, and your data is only good as your AI. And it just keeps going back and forth. And I think that is really what companies need to do today. They have to start peeling back this onion away from AI. And well, what's the foundation of AI? Well, then it's your data. Okay, from your data, you need a proper data strategy. And then from having a data strategy, you really need to foster a data culture. And that's been something that we've been very proud about in helping support our customers to do that.
Yeah. When I get asked, I always liken AI to a tool. It's a tool, and it's like any other tool. It's how you use it and who uses it best, but it's part of an overall toolbox. And when I say that, it seems to make more sense to them, or they're less fearful if I put it in that context.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think you just have access to new technology you never did before. So different than any other technology that has been developed, decade after decade. I mean, I feel very grateful that I lived in a period without the internet. I have a different appreciation for my life and how I raise my kids today. But look at how much that has changed our lives. Mm-hmm. And I see this as a positive, and it's very exciting. And I think the more that marketers can lean into that excitement and see how it can help foster the work that they're doing to be better, the faster and better that they will be at marketing.
Exactly. Okay. There's something that you called CMO's secret weapon.
Yes.
And I'm fascinated by this. And the word is community. Elaborate, please.
Yeah. So I think having a community is a gold mine for marketers. And for us, that is the Tableau community. Tableau community is a group now of over 4 million people all over the world that are really passionate. They're data enthusiasts. They're passionate about Tableau, but they are critical to our marketing. They are critical to our product. For us, they are a sounding board for everything that we do. And I think it's really important to not only create a space for community, but how you can foster it and leverage it in every aspect of your business. And I don't know that companies really do that enough yet.
So let's expand on that. So can any CMO in any industry do this? Create a community?
100%. Anyone can do it. It's just finding people that have a common interest. And I think you could do it in a couple different ways. If you're looking at your products, the easiest one to start is your end users. Who are your end users and how are they become evangelists of your product? And for us, our end users are very vocal, both in a positive and negative way. And as a leader, you have to be open to that feedback. So for example, as a marketer, I leverage our community for almost everything that we execute, from building out our annual conference to new campaigns I launch in market. If I'm coming up with new messages, I want to know that it's going to land with them. And I do testing with them. I also have regular one-on-ones with community leaders to really understand what they're going through, what are they thinking, what are they feeling in the market, within the community. And a big part of listening is also then taking action. And that is something that our leadership team, I feel, one, is open to the feedback, but two, we're not there to just listen. We're actually there to take action on those decisions. And it also comes back to our product. In fact, just in our last release, 10 of our newest features were all ideas that came from the Tableau community. So there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage a community, not only from a marketing standpoint, but also from a product standpoint. Like, how does the community and your end users really help shape your product roadmap?
You bring up something that when you said you have to deal with the good and the bad, right? The positive and the negative. And that's a challenge for most, I shouldn't say most, for a lot of people, because egos get involved, right? And I'm not stating anything that isn't obvious. You have to be willing to take the good with the bad. And that's not easy for some people.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, so we just celebrated our 5 years of being acquired as a Salesforce company. And I come from Salesforce. And when I first joined the organization, there was huge lack of trust with the Tableau community. It's just, we over pivoted on the Salesforce way of being that was very different from what the Tableau customers were used to. And it probably took a good couple years, honestly, to rebuild that. So this also isn't something that just happens overnight, especially when something so great, takes a turn for the worse, how to build that back up. So I know when I first came in, I keep talking about it as a listening tour, because there's no other better way to say it, but it's spending time in so many different forums, whether it's one-on-one or We have what's called our Tableau user groups, which are created by the community where they're hosting events within their regions, both virtually and in person. And it's all about learning from each other and supporting each other on the product and how they can advance their careers. And so everywhere that I travel, I try to visit a Tableau user group. We consistently host focus groups every single quarter on what is going on in the community and how we can help serve them. And it took, I would say, probably this last year, the most listening I've ever had to do in my life, but also coming up with really strategic action plan and continuing to bring them along for the ride. Because I also can't do everything, right? If someone's going to ask me for 10 things, I have my own constraints with time and budget and people. And if I can't have the resources to do everything, I also have to be transparent. And I think that's also what has helped build that trust is I'm a very transparent CMO, both with my team and our customers. And I'm able to say, like, listen, we heard you. I can execute, these 6 things, but for these reasons, I can't do the 4. Doesn't mean that they're off the table, but we can work towards a path towards that. But I may not be able to do everything along the way. And I think that's important too. It's that transparency that really then maintains the respect and trust of the community.
Yeah, because taking feedback is one thing, but without action, it means nothing.
Yeah, 100%. Our biggest use case in this, honestly, was probably our Tableau conference. Our Tableau conference a couple years ago looked and felt and screamed Salesforce, and it's not what the community was into. And, our registration was down. There's a lot of things that they were used to from having Tableau conferences for many, many years that they wanted to see that wasn't there. And, we did everything from surveys, again, focus groups, even down to showing our keynotes, weeks ahead of time to get their thoughts in our keynote and messages and how it was going to land. And we completely, our net performance score increased by 57 points because of how we turned that conference around. And it's because we listened and we executed on a lot of things that they asked for. Now, again, not everything, but I told them along the way what the plan was on what I can do and what I couldn't do. And honestly, it was one of the best conferences ever. And that was a huge turning point, I feel like, in our relationship with the community to prove that not only are we listening, but we're taking action.
I'm just chuckling because it sounds so simplistic, yet we both know not everyone looks at this the same way. And for whatever reason, human nature being what it is, people sometimes are just reluctant and reticent, and I don't know, they don't want to hear everything that people have to say. But if you're just open and honest and transparent with people, it just solves so many problems.
Well, I think it's interesting when individuals talk about EQ and having a growth mindset as an individual. Think about having a growth mindset as a company. Mm-hmm. Like if you're open to change and learning and feedback, your world's really yours. You can really do anything, but it's time consuming and you have to commit that time. This isn't something you just do one and done. This is something that you are committing over time. It's consistent interaction. Thankfully we have, products like Slack to do that. I interact with our community on Slack all the time. That is a great forum, as well as on person, on the phone, all over the world. But it is a commitment, but we value that feedback so much. That commitment is non-negotiable. Yeah, as it should be. That's just it, as it should be. Let me pivot to the future and how you build a marketing team for the future. And AI has got to obviously play a role in this, right? How do you when you look at the future and not just for you, but any CMO and building a team 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road? Yeah, I think a lot of it comes back down to obviously skill set. We're just looking for different skills now, right? Especially as more and more tools become available that are more readily available in the industry that makes us be able to work faster and more productive. I think those are skills I'd be looking for. If you think about, like an old school resume and back in the day, I remember, saying how fast you could type or, or like a developer who knows these coding languages. Now as a marketer, what AI tools do you know? I think are going to be really critical, but then also not having that fear base as well. How often can you live in ambiguity and be able to really lean into, the future and this change, I think is going to be really critical within building any team. Exactly. Okay. I'm going to pivot to something that you're not aware of. Let's do it.
And I started this new kind of part of my show at the end of the last season. I call it the Random Five, and I just ask you 5 random questions, but very, I don't do gotcha questions, anything like that. So if you're ready, here we go.
Let's do it.
What was your first marketing job?
I feel like I want to define this in so many different ways. I actually got a job as selling knives, which was kind of, this is like, I'm going back to like when I was 14 and I got this crazy job of selling knives, but it was like learning marketing because you had to understand messages that were going to land going door to door. That's a crazy example. I mean, really marketing coming out of college when I worked for a nonprofit organization. And that was my real first marketing job. Okay.
What are the 3, 4, whatever you want to come up with, most important traits you think leaders need to have?
Well, one, because we were just talking about is a growth mindset. I think that's really critical. I pride myself on the value of creativity, being creative. I think what's so interesting, I often talk about how CMOs tend to be in one of 2 buckets. You're either visionary or operational. Like, why can't people just be both? I think teams need both, and I thrive to be both. And I would also say persistence. There is so much noise out there. You have to be persistent. There's so many tools out there. You have to be persistent. What's going to be the best tools? And just also with your team. That's a value that our team lives every day.
Since you went there, you just reminded me of something. There's this, it's always ongoing, right? Performance versus brand. And my point is, why do you have to sacrifice one for the other?
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And it's like, it's hard as a leader too, because I think when people say brand, they think influence. But again, like, why can't you also be influential while also, operating in a way that makes sense for you and your team?
Yeah, I look at it as when I hear brand, people think you have to do performance, you have to sacrifice creativity.
Yeah, I don't think that at all.
No.
I think it's really the culture that you foster. I mean, my team, we have a set of value systems that not only do we map to our work to support that, but we actually reward our team based on these values. We just did our awards last week where they're peer nominated, and it's based on how many, of your peers, who is living the value of creativity, who is living the value of persistence, who is living the value of simplicity, who is living the value of passion. And if that's something that you not only are recognizing, give permission and empowerment for your team to work, but then you recognize it when they do it, that has been really powerful for the team that we've built.
Exactly. And rightly so. Okay, back to the questions. I got 3 more.
Okay.
If you had a time machine, would you fix your past mistakes or see your future?
I'm very much everything happens for a reason person. So I would not go backwards. I have plenty of mistakes, but I feel like that is who I am today. And honestly, even the weird path like kind of glazed over to where I've gotten today, or I believe 100% has happened for a reason. But I don't know that I want to see into the future either. I think that I like it as a mystery. I'm going to stay present, Steve. I am present here.
I love it. You're going off the board. I love it. None of the above. I so respect that. I love that. Okay. What's your go-to comfort food?
Anything carb related, 100%. Pasta, pizza, bread, just all carbs.
As long as it's high in carbs.
Yes, exactly. I don't know what it is. I'm not a sweets person. I feel like you're either a salty or a sweet. I don't want to end on a dessert. I want to end on a cheese plate.
Oh, I like that. That's interesting. Okay. And as you mentioned, you referenced, and people can't see this because it's audio only, but I have a wall of album covers behind me, including the big Motown collection. But let me ask you, what's the one song, and I'm asking for one now, I'm going to put you on the spot, that you have to sing along to?
That is impossible. I could sing to every song.
I know. Well, give me 2 or 3 if you want to. You don't want to play favorites.
In that era?
No, any era.
Oh, any era.
Just any song comes on your playlist, the radio.
Okay, well, I'll say that. So every night I sing "You Are My Sunshine" to my kids.
Okay.
So that's like an automatic, we're singing that in our song. But honestly, my family is such a my kids are such a wide range of music lovers. They know everything from like the Four Tops to Bob Marley to Green Day to country. I mean, they're all over the place. But yesterday, I will admit, we did have a Taylor Swift dance party in our house. It happened.
Okay.
I have all girls.
Okay. Is there a Taylor song above the others, or just any?
We'll go with "Cruel Summer." I don't know.
I knew I was putting you on the spot, but that's the point.
I know. I just can't even think in that frame right now.
I know. And it's not fair.
What I thought we were going to go was to my cats. Both my cats are sleeping next to me, and one is named Elvis Presley and the other one's Johnny Cash. That's where I thought maybe we might be going.
Wow. Okay. Well, you got to tell me that backstory then.
Well, we got them together as a bonded pair, which I thought I was being marketed to when I got these cats. It was during COVID, and they said, "Oh, they're bonded. You can't not take them both." And I thought we were insane to take them both, but one was black and one was white. And so we were at the time trying to think through, what are some, different things that could represent that. We're like, well, Johnny Cash, only wears black, and Elvis is famous for all of his white outfits. And so that is what we did. And they are bonded. They are very well bonded.
Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash. I love that.
Yeah. Cash and Elvis.
Is that what you call them for short?
Yeah. And our neighbors know them. It's very funny.
That's awesome. Well, listen, we are coming up against it. I had a blast. This time flew by. You were an absolute treat. It was such a great time chatting with you, and I cannot thank you enough for your time.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you.
You are welcome. Well, that wraps up another episode of the CMO Whisperer Show. I hope you shared this episode with your friends. And if you have not already, please subscribe to be kept up to date on all the latest episodes. And if you're so inclined, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you.